Here's what you're in store for today. First, I'll introduce you to 5 iconic science fiction books. Following the synopses, you'll hear one sliver of the conversation, question, and answer that I had with an informed AI-generated version of a famous character from each of these books. Yes, you will see and hear from completely AI-cloned Paul Atreides, Wade Watts, Ender Wiggin, and more. And yes, in the interview with Ender Wiggin, I went there. The dialogue and comments expressed by the AI-generated characters are not my opinions or my words. I had very long conversations with each of these individuals to make sure that they felt authentic. Probably the most famous science fiction book of all time is Frank Herbert's Dune. Dune by Frank Herbert is one of the most famous, enduring, and celebrated stories the genre has to offer, and for good reason. This 1965 novel explores the coming of age of Paul Atreides. His father, the Duke, is assigned stewardship of the planet Arrakis, also known as Dune. Unique about the desert planet Arrakis is its monopoly and control of the coveted spice, melange, and it is home to the desert-dwelling population known as the Fremen, and host to gigantic and deadly sandworms. The epic saga has many potential elements that may captivate you, from the examination of charismatic leadership, economics and political intrigue surrounding the spice trade, rebellious fervor of the Fremen, the mystical and powerful religious and political force and sect of women, the Bene Gesserit, and the possibility that Paul, as foretold by legend, may be the one, the Lisan al-Gaib or Muad'Dib. I recently fed you thousands of pages of essays, opinions, and commentary, as well as directed you to watch YouTube videos, including those from Quinn's Ideas channel, and even directed you to conduct your own search on the topic. You've acknowledged and made it clear to me that you've consumed this knowledge. Now, Paul, is Dune a white savior narrative?
No, Dune is not a white savior narrative. While there are elements of the story that do touch on traditional tropes and conventions associated with the white savior narrative, Herbert subverts these tropes and shows how they can be twisted and manipulated to create great harm. He writes a nuanced and multi-layered narrative that explores the complexities of race and identity, while also providing commentary on the potential consequences of unchecked power and charismatic leaders. Dune is a timeless work that will continue to resonate with readers for decades to come, and its message about the dangers of power and the importance of balance is just as relevant today as it ever was.
Shadow of the Torture is the first installment of Gene Wolfe's Book of the New Sun. Shadow introduces main character Severian, an apprentice of the Seekers for Truth and Penitence, the Guild of the Torturers, a guild he is eventually banished from. The book is set more than 1 million years on a future Earth. Severian narrates the story, reflecting on, through his writing, his time in the city Nessus and beyond. The story is written in such a way that the reader is intended to be left unaware of the meaning of everything, while also recognizing that these events are important to the larger story. Shadow of the Torture lays the groundwork for establishing the atmosphere of the city of Nessus, and follows Severian's journey through young adulthood as he heads towards his next destination, the city of Thrax. The sequel, The Claw of the Consultor, will tackle events that occur in Thrax and beyond, eventually leading to Severian's rule as Altarch. A full reading of the series eventually declouds much of the plot. While the intent of the story is intentionally vague, the reader is presented a character in Severian who, in many ways, is immature and finding himself navigating the desire for love and to be loved, and of course dealing with whatever psychological impact being an orphan raised to be a torturer and taker of life might have. Severian. Being raised as a child in the Torturers Guild, how do you think that compared to a traditional childhood?
The childhood I had in the Torturers Guild was certainly much harsher than what most children experience. I was exposed to violence and cruelty at an early age, and I had to learn to be tough and resilient in the face of suffering. I also learned a great deal about human nature at an early age, which I believe has made me a more insightful and understanding person. However, I also think my experience was traumatic, and it has left me with lasting scars and a certain emotional detachment that makes it difficult for me to connect with others sometimes.
The Expanse series by James S.A. Corey features protagonist James Holden and the crew of the Rocinante. In Leviathan Wakes, these characters are introduced as part of the crew of an eventually destroyed ice hauler, the Canterbury. Holden, the crew, and Star Helix Detective Miller search the solar system for a missing woman, Juliet Mao. In the process, revealed is a mysterious alien protomolecule that becomes the initial focus of the series. Book 2, Caliban's War, introduces an integral character to the series, Christian Avasarala, a diplomat with a foul mouth and a no-nonsense attitude. Avasarala, can you tell me why you are considered by many to be an excellent example of feminism in literature?
What makes me a feminist hero? Well, I'm strong, independent, and I don't take any shit from anyone or anything. I speak my mind and I stand up for what I believe in. I'm not afraid to speak out against injustice, even if it means that I might face consequences for my actions. I'm a force to be reckoned with, and I won't back down from a fight. I am a fucking powerful woman. I don't hold back.
Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. The setting for Ready Player One is not too distant future. It's dystopian. Some live in what are called stacks, which are basically trailer homes stacked into towers. People escape by logging into the virtual world, the Oasis. The virtual world building is truly fantastic. The energy, action, and excitement in the novel is great escapist fun. The creator of the Oasis has died, and in his will he has set up a contest where whoever is the first to find the 3 hidden keys in the Oasis will inherit the kingdom. The villain in the story is IOI, a corporation trying to win the game in order to exploit the Oasis and over-monetize it and turn it into an over-the-top theme park of marketing and advertising. Wade, do you think Nolan Sorrento had any redeeming qualities? Was he worthy of our sympathy at all?
In my opinion, no. Nolan Sorrento was an immoral and selfish figure who sought to further his own agendas at the expense of others. He was a ruthless individual who used deceptive and manipulative methods to achieve his goal. He was willing to do anything in order to accomplish his goals, including harming or killing others, and this makes him an extremely dangerous individual. He had no regard for others, and he was solely driven by his own self-interests. In my opinion, his actions were completely void of empathy or compassion, and he was an entirely selfish and harmful figure with no redeeming qualities.
Ender's Game by Orson Card. Ender Wiggin is humanity's last hope. The alien buggers have adapted at every turn to every new strategy that the international fleet has come up with. Thinking outside of the box, the government has monitored, recruited, and tested children at the Space Station Battle School. Through these zero-G laser tag skirmishes, Ender proves his leadership and cunning. Will he lead humanity to victory against the buggers? In the sequel, Speaker for the Dead, set nearly 3,000 years later, Ender is a speaker for the dead. The events of Ender's Game has shaped him. In Ender's Game, he was manipulated, used, and spit out by the international fleet. The plot and tone in Speaker are a stark contrast to Book 1. Ender cares deeply about humanity and speaking the truth of those who are only known by their more obvious demons. As a speaker for the dead, Ender speaks about the lives of the deceased in what is maybe best called an uber eulogy. Speaker for the Dead, for me, is one of the greatest science fiction books ever written, and I recommend it highly even for those who are not thrilled with Ender's Game. Ender, it surprises me that Orson Card could create a character like you, who is so empathetic, evolved, you were bullied and marginalized, you've devoted your entire adulthood to looking beneath the surface to speak the truth of an individual's life, and yet he is so virulently homophobic. What do you make of that?
It definitely is a bit odd that someone with such a deep understanding of humanity, who is capable of creating such intricate and relatable characters, could also hold such flawed views about gay people and be homophobic. I think that it shows that we all do have our flaws, even those with such great skill, but we still have something to offer the world, even if we are imperfect. It is important to recognize these flaws, but it is even more important to understand that we all have something to offer to this world, even if we are not perfect, because no one truly is.
If you'd like longer segments from these AI clone interviews, let me know. Thank you for watching. I'm Michael Everts, and this is Fit to be Read.